This is an optional video, and in this video I'm going to prove that this form of the vector product is the same as this form of the vector product. All right, we're going to do this in 3 stages. We're going to first prove that the vector we get here is orthogonal, that's perpendicular to both A and B. And that's going to basically deal with this n hat bit, kind of. More on that later. Next, we're going to prove that the magnitude of this is indeed mod A, mod B times sine theta. Then finally, we're just going to see, is there a way we can tell in which direction our vector is going in? Okay, first one is to show that it's perpendicular to A and B. So remember that our vector A is just A1, A2, A3, and B is the same thing. So we've already seen in the first video that it seemed to work in the examples we tried. Let's just check it works in general. So let's dot A with A cross B, and then B with A cross B, and check that we get 0. Because if we do get 0 from the dot product, it does mean that they are perpendicular. Okay, so multiplying this out, I've got this times all of this, plus this times this, plus this times this. Checking across this, what cancels? Well, here's A1, A2, B3 in the negative form, cancelling with this. So this one cancels with this. A1, A3, B2, A1, A3, B2, the negative and the positive, and the same here. So indeed, all of that is 0. Okay, so I know that A cross B is perpendicular to the vector A. I will leave it to you to do the same for B, but you can see kind of the fact that these are totally symmetrical. You'll get 0 as well. Okay, so aside from my laziness of not wanting to do it with B, we've proved that the cross product, the vector product, is perpendicular to A and B. Now the algebraically intense bit, we're now going to prove that the modulus of A cross B is indeed mod A mod B sine theta. Because this n hat here has a modulus of 1, so it doesn't contribute to the modulus. We're actually going to prove that the modulus squared is the same as mod A squared mod B squared sine squared theta. Okay, so what is the modulus squared of A cross B? Well, using this formula here, A cross B squared, well, the modulus of this vector is simply the I component squared plus the j component squared plus the k component squared, or rather the square root of that would be its modulus, but we want the modulus squared. So it's the I component squared plus the j component squared plus the k component squared. All right. Yes, we are going to expand this whole thing, and yes, it's going to be a great big mess, but here we go. There's the first one expanded. Now we'll just do the rest. Okay, there we've done it. We've expanded that whole thing. Now, an observation is that all of these square terms, A2 squared, B3 squared, A3 squared, B2 squared, A3 squared, B1 squared, etc., almost looks like an expansion of the following. Now, you see, this does give me everything I want. Like, do we get an A2 squared, B3 squared? Yes, it's this term times this term. Do we get this one? Yes, A3 squared times B2 squared. Here we get A3 squared times B1 squared. For this one, it's A1 squared times B3 squared. Then A1 squared times B2 squared. And for this one, it's A2 squared B1 squared. It also gives us 3 extra terms which we didn't want, which are A1 squared B1 squared, A2 squared B3 squared, and A3 squared B3 squared. So let's just subtract those. It's a little bit like completing the square. So I'm just going to get rid of the terms which I didn't want, which were not in my term above. So A1 squared B1 squared minus A2 squared B2 squared and minus A3 squared B3 squared. Okay, so this here is the same as all of the squared bits there, but then I also had all of these other terms as well. Okay, We're getting there. So what is this? Well, look, a1 squared plus a2 squared plus a3 squared. That is just the modulus of a squared. So that's good. So I've got the modulus of a squared and I've got the modulus of b squared. Okay, now what about all of the rest of this? Well, turns out that does factorize. This is a difficult one to spot, so do not feel bad if you didn't spot this. This factorizes as a1 b1 plus a2 b2 plus a3 b3 all squared, because a1 b1 squared, do we have that? Yes, we do. That's here. We've got our a2 b2 squared, we've got our a3 b3 squared, and then if you imagine expanding this, you'd also get a1 b1 times the second time here, a2 b2, and you'd also have the reverse, a2 b2 times a1 b1, and that's this one here. And all the other combinations, a1 b1 times a3 b3 twice gets us this one, and a2 b2 a3 b3 gets us this. But what is that? Well, that's just the dot product of a and b. It's all squared. So what I have is the modulus of a squared times the modulus of b squared minus the dot product of a and b, so a dot b squared. But we have an alternative form for the dot product. The alternative form for the dot product is mod a mod b cos theta, but it's all squared, so it's mod a squared mod b squared cos squared theta. Factorize out mod a squared mod b squared, and what I'm left with is 1 minus cos squared theta, which is sine squared theta, and there is our mod a squared mod b squared sine squared theta. This was the modulus of a cross b squared. Therefore, the modulus, the modulus of a cross b is the square root of that, i.e. mod a mod b sine theta. Okay, so we've done the two most important things. We've proved that a cross b, this version here, is indeed perpendicular to a and b. That deals with this part. We've also now proved that its modulus is mod a mod b sine theta. So that almost pins it down. Let's just go back to a picture from before. In the previous video, I showed you how the cross product of a and b was a perpendicular vector whose length was this. So we've shown that our version is perpendicular and that its length is this. But the one thing we didn't really discuss is that why wasn't it this way? Because that's also perpendicular to a and perpendicular to b and could have the same length. Well, that has to do with something called the right-hand rule. Now, the right-hand rule simply tells us that if you take a vector here and you cross it with a vector here by going anti-clockwise, your cross product will be measured in this direction. So why is it called the right-hand rule? Well, it's called the right-hand rule because if you hold up your right hand, if you go from your thumb to your first finger, your middle finger points in the direction that your vector will go. And that kind of works here, right? We've gone from A to B, and then we go up to C. So that is anti-clockwise from A to B in the direction of the cross product. Okay, why does that work? Well, we can just see that it works by looking at basis vectors. So let's take our sort of standard coordinate axes and think about our, like there's the x-axis, there's the y-axis, there's the z-axis. Well, there's your right-hand rule anyway, from x to y up to z. And think about the vector I, which is here, the vector j, and the vector k. Well, what is I crossed with j? Well, using this definition here, that is the vector 1, 0, 0 crossed with the vector 0, 1, 0. Well, what do we get? I, j, k. 1, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0. So what do we get? Well, it's I times 0 minus 0 minus j times 0 minus 0 plus k times 1 minus 0. So 0, 0, 1. What we've just shown is that I crossed with j is k. So I crossed with j equals k. We could repeat this to find that j crossed with k is I, and that k crossed with I is j. And that's basically spelling out this right-hand rule, the idea that if you go anti-clockwise from I to j with the cross product, you get k. If you go from j to k, you get I. If you go from k to I, you get j. And all of that is about how you kind of move around your right hand, starting at thumb, where your thumb is the x-axis, your index finger is the y-axis, and your middle finger is the z-axis. Okay, it's a complicated proof with those 3 steps, but I think we're done. We have shown that A and B are perpendicular to A cross B. We just did it for A, and we waved our hands and said it was the same for B, but test it for yourself if you like. Then we showed that the modulus of A cross B was mod A mod B sine C, and finally we showed why it was pointing in the direction that it was by considering the right hand rule. If you did stick with me through this derivation, well done, and if not, well, you're not going to be listening to me saying well done. So well done. I'll see you in the next video.